So thank you everybody for joining me. I think I've made it clear what I'd like to be chatting with you about. I don't have Dave and he's not responding. I know that he is somewhere in the bush, so it's quite possible that he doesn't have connectivity. But I think between us, certainly Mervyn, I think you can help me. We can address Dave's component, which is to address the current security precautions at Terra. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, we have first of all, welcome everybody. Nice to see everybody. Is Paula joining us? Okay. We have at Terra, we have a security company that has been vetted by us collectively as a body corporate, and is very representative in the area of Terra, in the area of Umhlanga. One of the big advantages with the company that we've got is that that company is linked to every body corporate in the area as part of the Umhlanga precinct activity, the Umhlanga improvement precinct activity. And that company has been servicing us for a number of years now. There are times that we have both a day and a night guard, and that's normally around holiday times. Otherwise, that individual is available for us at night as a nighttime guard. We also have a CCTV system in place where we're able to monitor what goes on in a number of key areas, critical areas. There are occasions, and Jeannie, thank you very much for pointing out to us, but there are occasions when, in fact, the CCTV system doesn't work and we have to call out the CCTV company. But generally, every time we've had an incident, we've been able to access the CCTV cameras and the CCTV systems. So it's a security company. It's the CCTV activities. Then, of course, as you know, we have a remote access by intercom, as well as a remote access by your cell phones, which are in the system. And we also have a tag system, as well as a remote system. What's being called into question on an ongoing basis is whether or not there's any way of improving on the tag and the remote system, given that we have no control over who an owner gives his remote to. And in fact, if it's a company of cleaners, which of those cleaners have a remote at any moment in time. For me, that's a major problem. We've got a major gap in our security system. The other gap in our security system, and Bibi, if I can ask you to attest to this fact, is that there is something going around amongst owners saying, well, if it's an inside job that generally happens, it's normally related to contractors. So before I go any further, Bibi, can I ask you to give me your view on that, given that you were most badly hit in this recent escapade?
Yes, Ava. Evening, everybody. On our unit, we had some contractors there to do some repair work over the month of beginning of December, November, December. And the day guard of the Terra Mare seemed to have been friends with these guys because they were letting him use a refrigerator and appliances during the course of these alterations. But
without your knowledge?
Without my knowledge, yes. I wasn't notified or asked by anybody for this. So then after they had completed their task and the renovations were completed, somebody, and it's a bit difficult for me to say who it was, but one of my doors were left open from the inside. They then got onto the balcony and they knew which door was open because they entered the door, stole what they stole, and exited out the door and took the stuff. So I do have a worker that's been working for me for 3 years there, and he's extremely trustworthy, and I highly doubt he's done anything. But I don't want to close any doors because we can all, trust can only go so far until you know the facts.
So, Bibi, can I just ask you? You had two large TVs taken off of your unit besides everything else. Do you have any idea how they removed those TVs and where they removed them to be able to take them off the property?
From what I can see from the photos that were sent, okay, so the TVs are mounted on a bracket. So to remove the TV is quite easy. It just slides off the bracket. They unplug it and it slides off the bracket and they carry it away. But from what I can see, the one side window that faces the road from my balcony was opened, but the TV can't fit through the window. It wasn't through there. They definitely went over the balcony below us and so forth up to Dave's balcony and down. I do know that Tony found a set of glasses on his balcony that didn't belong to anybody. So definitely over there's no other way. The front door wasn't opened at all. So it could only go over the balcony. There's no other way they can get the TV off out of the house. So they definitely roped it and sent it down from level to level.
All right.
That's the only thing I can come up with.
Debbie has raised a hand. Sorry, Debbie. Yeah.
And how did they then get it off the property?
As far as I know, Dave mentioned that they went through the back, towards the back gate, and then they got out and got into a white Land Rover, put the TVs in and drove away.
And I mean, what is your estimation of the time that this would have taken, that nobody would have?
Debbie, we have the vehicle arriving and dropping them off, and then an hour later coming back to fetch them.
I mean, that's an hour. That's quite a long time.
Huge.
It was.
I know it's early in the morning, early hours of the morning, but an hour is a long time for that to take place, and no one
they managed to go through the clothing. They took clothing, they took appliances, they took the TVs, they searched all the cupboards. They were there for a while. It wasn't in grab TVs and run. They were definitely in the unit for a while.
All right, guys. So just with regard to our security, I've got here questions about the current precautions and any comments about what BB has reported. Plus, of course, now that you know what our security system is about, any comments about that? I'm particularly interested in hearing from owners in other complexes. Ron, I know you own all around the world, but about what's done about safety precautions as far as security is concerned in those other units, those other complexes. Sorry, I'm just, so the Blick Notes do want to chat. I'm just asking them to unmute their microphone.
Okay.
Still
all right.
That's fine. Now we can hear you, sir.
Can I ask a question now?
Of course, please feel free.
Okay. Thank you. Just about the current arrangements and also about other blocks. You say that there's a CCTV system, but is the CCTV system only in the office, the control?
So the monitoring screen is in the office, yes.
Yeah. So the security guard at night does not have access to that. Is that correct?
No, he does. He has access through the window to be able to watch it. That's what Dave has set up with him. But what I've also asked Dave is why can't the monitoring company actually have it in their CCTV control room so that they can monitor it in real time? And he's currently investigating that because they do have a monitoring service. So if we can hook up to the monitoring service, it's one extra layer of good precaution. So I hope that answers your question, sir. Cliff, I see you do have your hand up, and Debbie, if I can ask you to remove yours.
Sorry, can I just carry on?
Sorry. Yes.
Sorry. Can I carry on? The main problem, as far as I'm concerned about security, is loss of life. Not
and what you can do in 1 hour, absolutely.
It's not so much stealing a TV from our apartment. So I think that's the main problem in South Africa. In fact, Lorita, my wife's brother, was murdered last year, in his house. And, so we're very sensitive about it. Now, can I explain to you, we stay in Cape Town at a block where I think I mentioned to you before, where we've got 5 security guards, of which 2 are on duty at night, and the others obviously on a shift basis. During the day, they've got 2, and in the evenings, 2. And they've also got a monitoring system for the entire building, around the building, with cameras all over, so that they, because we're very sensitive about security. So that's what worries us about Terra Mare currently.
How many units in that block?
The same, 50 odd.
Okay, all right. So it's as big. It's as, if you want, as small as ours, and you have all of these precautions in place.
Yes. They've also got immediate, just like I suppose we have at Terra Mare, and we've lived there 30 odd years. So, I mean, we've come along all the time and seen everything happen. And it's just very disconcerting that we're having these problems. In the past, I've found the security guard sleeping in front. That's when Paddy was still there. And, I had to phone security people myself. Paddy didn't want to phone them. And at the time, we complained about it. But I think it's essential that we have more than one security guard at night. Daytime's not that important as far as I'm concerned. I think at night is where things happen, like we've just seen.
So Clifford's got his hand raised, and then Ivano. Clifford, if I can ask you to come in.
Thank you.
So the first thing I'd need to know is, where was the security guard when Sarkis's flat was raided? Where was he when the last break-in happened? And what sort of rotation does he have around the building? Is there a tagging system so that we know that he's doing his rotations?
Mervyn, if I can ask you to come in here. We wanted Dave to be here. He was going to be here. I just can't get hold of him. Mervyn?
Yes, I'm not sure about the tagging system. That part, I'm not sure about it. Dave
I don't think we have a tagging system.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, it's a very cheap method of making sure that the guard actually does his rounds. And I actually don't know why the security company does not have a tagging system.
Yeah, we're assuming there's no tagging system, but certainly none of us have seen it, I don't think. And in fact, we've spoken to Dave about this previously, about putting in the tagging system. So I don't think he would not have spoken to the security company, but let's find out, because we need to know one way or the other. Ivano, you wanted to say something, sir?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Unit 107. So we've been coming there for 30 odd years. Just observation over time, and just maybe to keep focus on the current issue of, what is our view and where are things and how do we see it. I do believe that one single security guard at the entrance is certainly not sufficient. I've often been in and out at all hours of the night and morning, by virtue of why we use the flat and our travels, etc. And often you don't see the guy for extended periods of time. I think we do have a tagging system. I'm pretty sure I have seen the tags, but I think just by virtue of how broad the property is, whether it's the back, the front, the sides, how easily it is to move around, I do feel that one security guard is potentially not effective or as efficient. Maybe another thing to consider is lighting, and what we can do about lighting, motion sensors, or just various different other elements around lighting is just something else to consider. I have also been there in periods when there have been contractors and things have been happening. I must say Dave's been really good with getting the guys in and out, but obviously that does still remain a concern when the contractors are there and there are quiet times and the guys are working around. So that's just sort of our view off the cuff.
So Ivano, let me just address the issue of the lighting. We're about to go through, and I think I've told everybody about it over time, we're about to go through a major repaint of the building, as we have to in terms of our 10-year plan. One of the things is we've delayed that now by 18 months because of all of the other expenses we've had.
Sure.
But we have to do it in terms of the 10-year plan. And when we do that, we will be putting in professional lighting within our inner envelope and also our external envelope, all based on using as much of the solar factor as we can, but also, of course, making sure that no area is left unlit the way it is at the moment. It has been attended to by Dave over a period of a year and a half, but the bottom line is it's by no way at the level we want to see it at. There was a stage where we wanted to get a professional lighting contractor in, but the response was, well, let's use our internal guys to set up
Sure.
that system. But it's not working. We need much better lighting. We need professional lighting. Because more than anything else, professional lighting adds to the value of the premises.
Absolutely. And maybe my last comment, just Debbie, I'll stop now. You can go back to your hand. Just some precautions we've taken. So we did put an alarm. We did put beams on the patio. We're on the first floor, so 107 right down there by the laundromat or the laundry or the staff quarters. So we put beams on the patio. We put burglar bars all on the inside. We changed the aluminium doors and put double locks. And we've also put additional sort of wooden pieces of wood at the top of the sliding doors, at the top of that small piece at the top of the sliding doors. So we've taken some precautions, and I must say we've had, touch wood, it's been okay. It did come in once, but it's only when we weren't there. So just from a precautionary perspective, that's kind of the steps we've taken.
Ivana, with all of those precautions, how did they get in?
I think that when they did get in, and they also stole the TV, it was the old doors. We had those very first doors that were in the units, and they were very easy to sort of lift and move down. When we changed them, we then put the double locks and all the extra pieces. So that design allowed you from the outside to lift it and sort of jimmy the thing out and move it across.
All right, thank you for that. I'm going to be coming to Debbie now and then Clifford. I do just want to say about the sliding doors. We've had many discussions with many owners. It seems that the best route to consider going is that we are wanting owners to put trellis doors or security inside your unit rather than outside your unit.
Yeah.
So that if you do want to leave your sliding doors over, you've still got the trellis doors if you need to keep them up. But you have security from inside the unit rather than outside, where people can take their time to jimmy your locks and jimmy your facilities. And then also all of your opening windows onto the patios, to have those nicely burglared, just with a straight burglar proofing, but at least that's an extra precaution. And then of course the locks as well. What we're considering is getting 2 contractors to quote us on doing it for all of our units in the building, and possibly then simply saying to owners, here is a price for those of you who don't have these facilities. For argument's sake, it's 100 Rand. Are you prepared to pay the 100 Rand? Because then what we'll do is we'll quality control the installation in every single unit and get certificates that are kept then with Kogi and the guys and Steve for the entire building. So that's one route we're considering going if everybody, wants us to. Some of you already have trellis doors, so you don't need to go that route. Debbie?
Thanks, Ivan. I just wanted to ask, just for my information to start off with, there's 2 recent incidents that have happened. Is that correct?
There is an attempted break-in a couple of weeks ago, and then there's this activity.
This one, yeah. And both of those were more or less while Dave's been away.
No,
No.
Correct me if I'm Dave. Are you on the line now? No, Dave's still not there.
Okay. No. So he only left on the 22nd, I think.
Right, Mervyn, do you know if the first incident happened when Dave was
yes, yeah. No, Dave was there for the first one.
For the first one.
So the palisade to be fixed, everything.
Okay. And have both of these been attempts from a similar place, like the back fence, or is it not just one area that we're vulnerable on?
No, it's the back palisade fence.
Yeah.
It's those concrete fences that they actually remove the pillars.
Yeah. So that seems to be the weak point, because I can't see anybody, or I'm not aware that anybody's come through the front. So it does seem to be that back fence, and the fact that that back area is dark and it's easy to, if you're through the fence, getting into the building is quite easy, or into the structure is quite easy. I just wanted to be sure that both attempts, or the one incident and the one attempt, were both from the back.
Yes,
that perhaps that's the area we really need to focus on a little bit more, because it's also, I don't know how the guard patrols that back area, and even if he would patrol that back area, it might be quite difficult you know, accessing that.
So Debbie, there's a short-term solution that has been suggested, and that is that, in fact, it's more than suggested, but we've said just go ahead in the interim, but that's to put beams up across that fence. If anybody does break those beams when the alarm is on, then automatically that alarm will go off. That's
Okay.
a short-term solution. And then medium to long-term solution is seriously considering building that wall out of brick so that it's impenetrable. But, you know, one doesn't know what is impenetrable these days.
That sounds good.
You think that's a good idea, eh?
Yeah, no, I think I'm pleased to hear about that. Maybe can I just make one other comment? I mean, will it be worthwhile getting our insurance company to suggest a professional security consultant to do a once over all our systems and make recommendations?
I think that's an excellent suggestion. I just want to check, Dave, you're still not on, right? No. All right, because there is someone who continuously is joining us and falling off and joining us and falling off. Anyway, that's by the by. So absolutely, that's a very important point, and we'll take that up straight away with our insurance company. Because, you know, having to replace the palisade fence all the time is not acceptable. So thank you for that. Okay, but Mervyn, before you, I know Cliff wanted to say something.
Yeah, I know we've got a camera on the 4th floor at the back gate, but where they came in, do we have cameras in that area?
Mervyn, do you want to comment? Yeah, I think we've got more than one camera, but I just want to summarize. Just to everybody, you want more security guards, you're going to be all paying big money every month extra. So let's remember that it's also about what's within the budget. But
Mervyn,
I do think
what's the average cost per person?
I think it's about 18 to 20 grand a month per shift.
Extra person.
Yeah. So we don't have the budget for that. So let's get that out the way. But I think from my visit,
but how important is the budget if lives are at stake?
It's simple. You need to, exactly like Ivanhoe has done on their unit, everybody has to protect their own units. We're not responsible for everybody's units. You need to put in chili doors, you need to put in burglar bars. Okay. Remember, so that's my issue is at this point in time, we need to put the beams up across the back. I was already discussing it 2 weeks ago after the attempted break-in. The only way you're going to stop, look, if somebody wants to get in, they're going to get in. So just another factor to deter them is we've got to go for the beams. I would also like, as Ivor suggested, off-site monitoring, because while the security guard is walking around tagging himself, it's a fairly large building. By the time he comes back, an hour has passed anyway. So if we can get the cameras, but that's quite an investment as well, because these off-site monitoring, the cameras are all sensitive to movement, and that's what activates in the control center. Remember, the control centers might have 20, 30 buildings. So the only way that they know where to look at is if there's movement, then the camera actually gets a red square around it, and then they can monitor it from there. So that's my one thing. Beams at the back and the remote system off-site monitoring. And currently the security guard's got to look through the window. I don't know if we've got to move the screen closer to the actual window so that he's got more access to it. But then again, remember, if we're tagging, he's walking around. He doesn't have time to sit down and watch the screens. So we're in a bit of a dilemma there.
So we need two security guards. That's the answer.
When everybody's done, please
hello,
give me
Jeannie.
a chance.
How are you?
I can't find my hand to put it up. So please, when everybody's done,
so we've got Mervyn finishing his points, and then Clifford, and there was somebody else, but I can't see her hand anymore. And then I'll come to you, Jeannie.
Thank you very much.
All right. So
then the last issue is I don't know how we improve the remote system. You cannot, as you said, there are Airbnbs, there's people coming out, there's construction workers, and everybody just gives them the control. So no matter what, so we're going to change the frequency, and it's going to last less than 48 hours before a cleaner or somebody gets a remote, has it copied, etc.
All right, thanks, Mervyn. I mean, look, there's one thing that I do need to respond to you before I go to Clifford, and that is this. Have we done an evaluation of what we're currently paying our security company for security? And within the context of what Mr. Blichnout suggested, possibly talking to a security consultant to determine at that price, are we getting best bang for our buck based on the problems that we're experiencing? The other person, Muriel Z, has put up her hand. She was after you, Mervyn, and before Clifford. Sorry. Thanks, Muriel. Thanks for putting your hand up again. But just before you come in, so Mervyn, I think maybe...
So yes, the short answer is yes, we did. We got a whole lot of quotes in different companies. But as you say, the current company are the ones that are part of URP. And in our area, they kind of best, and they did walk around and they did make the suggestions. But yeah, that's where we're at the moment. So I think we've got kind of the best within our budget. The rest, and yeah, unfortunately, each unit's got to be responsible for their own security.
Okay.
Can you mute him?
Yeah. So, Mr. Blichnout, there was just some background noise there. So, all right. So, thanks, Mervyn. Muriel, can I ask you to come in, and then I'll turn to Clifford?
Sorry, Sarkis, I'm just sharing the laptop. I deal with a security company here in Joburg, who I'm quite close with, and you're talking about the tags and the remotes and the copying of the stuff in that. There is no way to eliminate it. It's always a threat that remotes are leaked and tags are leaked, and it's virtually impossible to control it. But the only system that is controllable is face recognition, but then again comes at a cost. If a special levy is required in order to install that facial recognition, then owners and workers and whoever's logged in to stay there will be able to enter just by face recognition. But there's no other solution. The company I deal with is quite professional with doing large-scale security. And there's always the human error of a remote being lost or a tag being lost or copied, or it always poses a problem.
It's the first time I've heard of face recognition. I didn't realize it was a commercial application. I mean, a domestic application as much as a commercial one. All right. So thanks.
Yes.
And we can certainly go into it. I mean, let's see what the cost is and see, how it relates to what we're paying at this moment in time. I must also say something else, and that's with respect to what I heard from Mr. Blichnout. So we used to have at least 4 or 5 incidents a year. We're down now to, on average, 2 to 3 incidents a year. So something about our security precautions has to have taken hold. And please, famous last words, knock on wood, because the bottom line is we could, God forbid, have a murder tomorrow in the building. So it's as good as it lost, our solution. So, I'm recognizing the fact that there is something about our security precautions which is working well. And so I think from Mervyn's point of view, we don't necessarily want to panic to the extent that we double our budget on security if we can afford it. Okay, so Bibi, thank you for that. Clifford, you wanted to say something. I'm not surprised if you've dropped off already.
Nah, I'm still here. There's another way to access the building is through biometrics, which works very well. That's something maybe we should look at.
That's thumbprint or fingerprints, right?
Yes, it does work quite well, and you could have a system where your fingerprint actually expires. So for these rentals, they're coming in for a week, you can have that fingerprint run for about a week, and after a week, that fingerprint disappears off the system. I like the fingerprint system because then you know who's accessing the building, and it's not a remote. And I don't think those biometrics are too expensive. The other thing is, what does the security company say about these break-ins? I mean, this was a complete failure from their guard. What do they actually have to say?
Well, it's early days yet, but the point is that they've done a full scan of what's happened. They've looked at the CCTV cameras. They're also interviewing the guard as well, by the way, in numerous aspects. So they're not letting, they're not relaxing or resting on their laurels in any way whatsoever. But the bottom line is it is a failure of our security system, no question about that. And I want the head of the security company to have a chat with us as trustees and face us and talk to us about what's gone wrong and what he thinks we should be doing to improve it. Jeannie, I see your hand. You were before Ivano, so if I can just ask you to come in, man.
Thank you, Ivor. It's been very unfortunate that we came on Tuesday and that break-in took place whilst we were there. And we went to see the lady, the young lady in 405. And thank goodness her dad was there because they were asleep. And they came through with a small window above our big sliding doors, slipped it, and they came in and took a laptop and all of that. But the CCTV camera clearly shows how they came in, how the pillar was broken, and this was broken on the 18th. So we have had a miss because we did not repair that one thing. So it was not broken on the day of the entry.
Oh, hold on, Jeannie. I just want to clarify this. You're saying that what was broken in the first attempt wasn't repaired?
Well, it seems that way, and this lady confirmed it because they are overlooking, and she saw the cameras and she could see them come, and she said the last time on the 18th of February, when this security guard, the new one that was here on the premises at the time of the burglary, these guys who were in the building for 2 hours. So I'm not sure whether marshals have updated you, Ivor, on the going on, because when the security guy came with his tag, they just sat silent. You could see all of that on the camera, and you can see them being dropped off. You can see them an hour or two later being picked up. You can see them moving the cameras over those thin walls and passing it through.
All right.
The TV.
What I'm going to do, colleagues, is I'm going to personally get involved in discussing with the security company everything they've found, what their report is, and what precautions they're taking internally, particularly around understanding what's gone on with the palisade fence being fixed, and also understanding what's gone on with the fact that, according to Jeannie, they're now there for 2 hours, whereas what was reported to me was 1 hour. So there are holes here, and I will personally take responsibility for drawing up a report for the owners based on the actual facts of the situation. Thanks,
I
Jeannie.
think that's very important, Ivor. And then a couple of other things. That morning when they were here and the police was here and questioning everybody, the marshal's guy said to Beauty, because there was no TV that was stolen from 405, and he said to Beauty that she must go through to every apartment, open up and check where the TV was missing from. And I said, no, you've got to go with Beauty. And he said, well, they've got a meeting to go to. So I said, Beauty will wait, but I'm going to give Ivor a call and let him know. Then only did the marshal's guy go with Beauty. And do you know, by midday when I walked around, the gate for M7 was open. I went back to Beauty and said, Beauty, did you check M7? Because the gate's open. She said, oh, we forgot to lock it up. So another thing is, when Dave's on leave, we need a good backup, because Dave's on leave now, maybe for 3 weeks or a month, I don't know. Beauty is not in a position to do anything, really. Firstly, she's old and she doesn't know what to do.
All right, so Jeannie, let's just say that we will be dealing with this as a group of trustees. We know that we are exposed in terms of the 2IC to the building manager, and we are looking seriously as a group of trustees at all of our staff appointments within the company, because I think everything starts from the top and how things are managed from the top. So thank you for that. and we will be
One
taking-
last thing, Ivor.
Yes.
When the guy was here on Friday to reset the remotes, there were only a handful of residents that have gone to reset the remotes. And our remotes is also questionable because you just hold it onto each other and it copies. So it's not, doesn't get done at the motor. There were more helpers, workers, gardeners, all standing with remotes to be reprogrammed, and they all had 3 buttons. So all the 5 workers here, plus the cleaners, there were more of the workers domestic than there were the residents that were here. And I do understand people don't live here, but that was also equally frightening.
It's caused a lot of problems in the past where an owner will give their remote through to the cleaners or to the gardening companies or in fact to contractors. There's not a lot you can do about that, but I think most probably what's come out tonight as the most central point is maybe the biometrics that Clifford spoke about and that BB spoke about is the solution, because we can then identify who's on our property by fingerprint or by faceprint, and we can make that a time-based access as well, which is very interesting. And so I will follow that up again with Clifford and with BB and the companies. Ivana, you've been very patient, so thank you, and please come in, sir.
No, all good. So I wanted to speak about the biometrics, but the guys beat me to it. But I had an enhancement onto that. So the same thing. We live in an estate in Joburg, and it's actually your hand. You pass your hand through a sensor. It's the same, whether it's fingerprint, hand, facial, whatever biometrics. But what you can also do, there's a keypad next to the biometrics. So what you could do is if you have someone coming, you can, and it'll be a click-on system. Some of you might be familiar with a click-on type system. There's an app, you open it up, I send you the code, you're my visitor, you come. The problem is though, so what I'm seeing is, so biometrics, yeah, guys, absolutely. I think every complex estate is going biometric. I think days of remotes are past. However, the challenge is that the individuals will still be able to get in, right? So whether I send a code, whether we log them on with the biometrics and they expire, the individuals can come in and out. And again, guys, I appreciate the budgets. I'm also sit on homeowners boards, etc. So I get it. Like, I'm fully aligned with budgets. But I think let's just put the topics on the table so we can just address them. The other thing is that...
Sorry, can I just ask you, Ivana, what do you mean? If I've registered you for entry and egress in a building, how can someone else just come in?
So I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So I was going to get to the point now. So what I'm saying is, so now I have a contractor coming to the house, right? To the flat. So, and how am I going to load him on biometrics to arrive there with his fingerprint and get access or go in or go out? So I'll send him a code. I'll request a code for my unit 107. I'll forward him the code. He arrives there, he punches in the code, and the gate opens. I'm just scenarioing options and ways this could work and holes, right? Because there's that issue to address. Not everyone can always be registered. It's impractical. I stay in an estate of 200 houses, and it's a nightmare if that has to happen. So for example, that's how it would happen. In that instance, then, you would need a permanent security guard to be able to then check that they have an ID, maybe check the vehicle license disc, whatever, do all those double, triple checks to make sure that that individual is legitimate. We do have some record of who's come in, who's come out, because right now that might be a bit vague and we're not really sure who's coming in or out by virtue of A, the remotes, and B, the allowing multiple people to come in and out. So I think there's a much broader point to the biometrics. It's not just so straightforward. However, sorry, just to add to that, I appreciate that the CapEx investment, maybe to buy, the fingerprint readers or the hand readers or the PIN code device may not be excessive, but then it's the ongoing cost. And I'm just concerned that that might become a budgetary issue from an OPEX perspective going forward. And then something, forgive me, it's something that's, I can't remember what the decision was, if it was years ago or when it was, but when you arrive and when you walk up that walkway up to the front door, there used to be that little room, or there still is that room where the guard used to sit there many years ago.
At the bottom of the walk, yes.
Yeah. maybe there's a consideration around what that looks like, and is that something to reinstate as an stop access point? And secondly, does the intercom work? I can't remember if the intercom actually works.
Not to the unit. Not to the unit.
No, it doesn't.
No,
Yeah, no.
it doesn't.
So, yeah. So I think there's, and back to Mr. Blignout's comment, I think an assessment of everything might be a really good approach to take, because there's so many different areas that have been changed or addressed or modified, or we've suited the operating model, to use a commercial term, to what's happened, and we've made all these changes. So maybe a fresh approach, and then saying, with that fresh approach, guys, this is the budget we have, and we can only do X, Y, Z. So I just think from a broad access perspective, I think that's something to consider, maybe going forward. And then I do think, just hearing the comments and some of the suggestions, that back palisading, whether it's beams or building it up or whatever, I think is a major point.
You're happy to work with us on the security aspects, right? Thank you so much. Get that.
Yeah.
Right.
I can offer some time when I can.
It's fine, but I need people to step up. You've obviously got the good experience. I'm not talking about, on a full-time or a permanent basis.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Right.
Happy.
All right. Cool. Excellent. Thank you. All right, guys. So that's our security system. I will investigate now with a security company, and I will set up a security consultant to be to have a discussion with us as trustees and people like Ivano, etc., who will play a role. And we'll see how we can progress this quickly. I'm shocked to hear, Jeannie, about the possibility that what happened a couple of weeks ago was not repaired and, in fact, was pounced upon this time round. I can't believe that, so I'm going to investigate it. If it's true, it's much more severe for particular individuals that I'm prepared to let go. So you have my word on that, because that's totally unacceptable if that is the case. But we will investigate, and I promise you we will come back to everybody as a result of that investigation. Debbie said, yes, PIN code access is how a lot of international blocks work. She also thinks the focus on the weak spots, i.e. back fence, putting beams or better protection there. Absolutely. I think it's undoubted. And I think the reality is as well, Debbie, we have to take this into our hands. We cannot rely on anybody else to finalize the security. As owners, we have to own the solutions, and then decide who's going to deliver on these solutions for us. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. All right. So those are the questions about the current precautions. Cliff, you've got your hand raised again.
Yeah, I've got a really good guy that I'll consult with tomorrow. And he'll give us some options on the biometrics, etc.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Thank you very, very much. As far as trellis doors are concerned, as I said, we will get a sort of blanket proposal for trellis doors across the sliding doors, as well as for the burglar bars on the opening windows. And then we'll come back to you one at a time, to each owner, and say, our security consultant has determined that this is what's missing in your unit. And here's a possible solution. Here's a possible cost for the solution. And if, for argument's sake, 10 owners decide to go with us on the solution, we'll get one contractor to do it, because then at least we have warranties and guarantees from that one contractor as well. Ivana, what I'll also ask down the line is maybe an offline discussion with you about all of the precautions you mentioned, and Bibi, the precautions you've also taken, so that we know we're not leaving anything out in the process, blocks and locks and trellis doors and everything else. Look, I think the reality is we'd rather none of us be having to take this upon our own shoulders. But the bottom line is these are our units, these are our assets, and God forbid the question that Mr. Blignout asked comes anywhere close to true, that someone is actually taken in their own unit. I don't want to see that on our watch. So we have to personally take responsibility here. Okay, are you all comfortable with that? All right, excellent. So I just wanted to tell you, as far as the water solution is concerned, we did circulate the response to our initial investigation about a borehole, that our council is concerned. People are generally concerned in a complex of having a borehole. The insurance company is concerned about accountability and exposure to people who are either poison through the water or in some way harm through the water, etc., because it's an out of public service facility we'd be putting in. What was suggested instead was a system that feeds directly into our building's water system from 4 or 5 JoJo tanks with a pump. Mervyn, I know you had some views on that.
When I was there last week, so I was talking to Dave. So the option is, like everybody's asking me where they're going to put them. As you drive into the main gate, there's 2 parkings on the right-hand side. Dave wanted to put them there because of the access to the main water pipes. And basically put in, I don't know, four tanks of 10,000 each. So that's 40,000 liters. And you have a bypass line. So, because remember that if you put tanks in, every time somebody turns the tap, the motor goes on. So you need a hell of a big motor for our building. So the other way around that a lot of us have done in Gauteng is you have those tanks on standby, and you use them once a week so that you keep refreshing the water once a week. So once a week that fill the pool, do the garden from those tanks, and they kick in. The rest of the time you bypass the tanks and you're back on the mains as normal. The motor doesn't work. Because remember, if we put in a big motor and we've got load shedding, then you're not going to have water. So you have this bypass that you connect to the mains, and the 4 tanks are there just as backup. But somebody has to be responsible for emptying the 40,000 liters once in 2 weeks or so, where they're going to fill the pool, do all the waters, or you just let the water run for a few days at a time until it's drained. That's on the tank side. Boreholes, that's a different story completely.
So, BB, I see you want to say something as well?
Yes, I've actually just installed it in Joburg at my property with the JoJo cans. So, as I was saying, like, you have to empty those or use those JoJos once a week or someone to refresh the water. But I've just spoken to the company, and there's an ultraviolet light that they install after the pumps that the water runs through that eliminates all the problem of your algae and germ or any E. coli or anything that's in the water. So once that infrared light is installed, instead of it being once a week that you got to turn the water around, it turns around to about every 3 months. Because the JoJo can is built with a special lay inside that prevents algae. So the infrared light will make the JoJos last about 3 months before you have to rotate the water. They're not too pricey, the infrared lights, and it does eliminate 99.9% of any bacteria or germ.
So, colleagues, we do want to make progress on this. Any thoughts? I'm not necessarily saying we want to make the final decision now, but we certainly would like to hear from you about your views on us going with the JoJo tanks and the infrared lights, etc., etc.
Can I come in?
Yes, please, Jeannie.
In time, our water is going to become a problem, but if it isn't already a problem. And I'm of the opinion we pay the money up front and go for the borehole and have that infrared light and get a scientist, as we do in Joburg, to come and test our water. And I'm sure the owners will have comfort from that. So there's a guy that does our one, but he's based there, or any university. UCT does it. I don't know about KZN.
Well, if you remember, we actually called them in previously to test the water in the building. So
yes,
we do
and they are happy. They are happy to take the water and test it. But I think our first prize should be we go for a borehole, and then we put the infrared light, have the water tested. I think in time, yes, the JoJo tank may be an interim solution, but when the water all gets contaminated, and if everybody on Lagoon Drive goes and gets their borehole, then we're going to be last in there.
Can I
And
ask, is
I think
Andy
we
on
should.
is Andy still on the call? Andy? Sorry, Jeannie, I just wanted to see if Andy's still here, because I know from a technical point of view, he has expertise.
Oh, 'n Zoom meeting wat ou Iver het oor die water en daai steelere, daai inbreuk. Ek kom beswaar my te sê hy kry glad nie gekonnekt nie. Lyk vir my die link wat gestuur is op my telefoon.
Andy, are you there?
Maar luister van net gou. Maar is omtrent klaar. Weet jy die kos staan reg? Ek nou kan jy slank skiet.
Yeah, I don't know. Andy was here. He did join initially. All right, so we'll definitely get his view on it. Jeannie, there are a whole lot of legalities around the boreholes that were raised in his investigation by Dave. I'm going to ask him to reduce that to writing for us, because apparently it was a view from the city councillor, it was a view from the insurance company, etc., etc. Now, it might just be general posturing. I don't know, but I do think we need, as a body corporate, to be aware of our legal exposure. Gavin, I don't know if you know anything from a legal point of view about using borehole facility in a public premises like ours. Gavin, are you there? Okay. Not a good day for the Zoom. All right, so I will ask Gavin with myself to go into what the objections were to the borehole, so we make it very clear to owners, and we ask you as owners to choose, and we go essentially with a majority decision, I think. Mervyn, do you agree with that approach? Is nobody hearing me? That's so sad.
I hear you.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay,
We
guys.
can hear you.
All right.
We hear you.
Are you happy with us going along in that direction and doing that? Actually finding out what the objection to the borehole is, what the costing will be with the ultraviolet light on the JoJo pump system, and then just bringing it to you, to owners, as two options and asking you to vote one way or the other. Because thanks, Ivana. I do think we need to bring this to a head, because as Jeannie says, two things. It's not going to get better in the short term, and more importantly, eventually the water table for the boreholes will be depleted, and if we're not in it, we're not going to be allowed back into it. So it is something we have to investigate, and thank you for that, Jeannie. All right, and so it brings me now to the final point of tonight, and that's about the painting. So we've had the area surveyed, we've had quantity surveyors in the area, we've looked at ways of extending the guarantee from the 1 year guarantee we previously got for our 1 or 2 million expenditure. It's becoming more and more expensive to paint the outside and the inside envelope of the building. And more importantly, the amount of rust, the amount of embedded metal and steel which is rusting from inside our pillars, the bad state of our drains off of our balconies into those pillars are all issues that need to be taken care of, because it'll affect our warranty and our guarantee on any paint contracting that takes place. I'm waiting for the final review and the final proposal we've got one in from a company. I'm waiting for the second one in. For me, the non-negotiable is that if our painting is every 5 years, I want as much of that 5 year period to be guaranteed by the contractors, subject obviously to an annual quality assurance inspection, and them fixing up anything from their original job that didn't work, or us actually fixing up whatever we need to fix up on a very small basis, so that at the end of the 5 year period, we're not having to go back to the beginning again with our new paint job, but simply to put on additional coats and maybe patch and repair in small areas as required. So I want our warranties and our guarantees to work for us, because historically they haven't. More importantly, the quality of the work done. Our contractors not the contractor, the engineer and the quantity surveyor we called in to look, for example, at the railings. We're astounded that we painted railings that didn't need painting because of the fact that they're aluminium railings, and painting them was the last thing in the world that should have been done. But we were advised otherwise by the experts at that moment in time. So it's about stripping and restoring the actual natural finish of our railings and making sure they're stuck to the walls and not pulling away from the walls, as is currently the case in a couple of units. So it's that kind of upkeep and feedback that we're focusing on for this paint. But it is going to require, as Mervyn said, a significant push in terms of a special levy, because it gets done every 5 years. It has to be done in terms of our obligation to the Community Services Schemes, CSOS. And we've put this one off by 18 months already. We're not going to be able to put it off much longer. And most probably from a funding point of view, we'd want to maybe get it financed over that 5-year period anyway, so that it's not necessarily a special levy as much as a couple of R100 more per unit per month. And maybe within that, we can also incorporate the water system solution. So that's what we're looking at the moment. And certainly by the AGM, I want that thing finalized. Sorry, who's that?
It's Andy.
Oh, Andy, we lost you, my friend.
No, I've been over here all the time. I've just been battling to get my voice system through to you. I don't know what's going on.
All right.
Anyway.
So, Andy, just on the water system, you've hopefully heard the discussion between borehole or the pumping system. What are your professional views, sir?
I've heard the recommendation regarding the borehole. Boreholes, you know, for a start, it's risky to sink a borehole and hope that you're going to be getting to water. And then once you've got to water, you're going to take spot samples and you're going to say the water's good or the water's not good. If it's not good, you've got to treat it. And for us to get involved with treat it, as you said, we're saying right in the beginning, you put a lot of risk, undue risk onto the body corporate. I really don't understand why a person wants to do away with municipal water supplies by going for a borehole supply. I mean, the municipal supply is there. I understand that it's not very reliable at the moment, and hopefully with all of this work that they're doing to get backup dams working and these kind of things, a person will get a better supply of water going forward. But I support 100% the idea of having JoJo tanks with a recirc. I think what we've got to guard against is if we do any water systems that we start treating the water. I think it puts an onerous risk on the body corporate. Treating water is not a simple matter. I mean, what you're doing is when you're starting to treat water, you're saying this is the quality of water. It might be like that for that spot sample that you take, but over a period of time, it might not be like that. You start getting people getting sick, and then it's your problem. I really do think the JoJo tank, where a person has the normal water mains making up to the unit, and that a person stores the water and you bring it back into circulation from time to time. There's actually a good video on YouTube by some of the suppliers of these water systems, specifically the Builder's Warehouse, shows typically how the system works, and it's a good system, and it's really going to cost you a fair. I mean, we've had a quote from one contract already for about, I think it was 190,000 Rand to install the JoJo tanks with a 2.2 kilowatt pump. I don't know what the rest of your system looked like, whether it actually does circulate back to the tank. But it's a fairly simple system and it works, and it should be something that takes away risk for the body corporate.
What do you think about the UV option after the JoJo tanks that was mentioned by Bibi?
I know about UV for treating the water biologically. It's always a concern when a person's been storing water, but if we circulate the water often enough and a person has the black coating inside the tank, where you prevent UV, contaminant or UV rays getting to the water and actually forming algae growth and things like that inside the tank. I think, as long as a person circulates it fairly regularly, it shouldn't be a problem. A person shouldn't need something over and above the circulation. UV light works, but it won't work on a continuous basis. Not with the volumes we talk about. If a person has peak loading over the December period, I don't think UV light is the way to go.
Okay. Andy, thank you for that. And obviously, you've just done Ivano's thing as far as the water solution is concerned, and you've put your hand up and said that you are absolutely instrumental to our solution for the water solution. So thank you for that, sir. We'll definitely be calling you back from your retirement.
No.
Guys, look, thank you very much. I realize I have taken up a couple more minutes than originally what we said. I would like to have these discussions more regularly than once a year, frankly, because believe it or not, we've had better participation here than on some of our AGMs. So thank you all for being here. There are some very pressing points I'm going to need to go back and confirm. The thing that's bothering me big time is this issue about the palisade fencing and the repair on the palisade fencing. Jeannie, thank you for raising that. I think that what Mr. Blichnout mentioned is that it's very true, and that is, it's nonsensical to suggest that a guard who's patrolling the front of our building has the capacity at the same time to patrol the back of the building. And unless the CCTV system is so responsive to help him as a tool, it doesn't make sense to hold him accountable for the entire building. And something I want to discuss with the security company is they might have come in from the palisade fencing, but the reality is they were traversing the balconies in the front of the building. And so there we've got a problem. There is an issue. I'm not sure what the solution is. It might be as simple as putting up beams on all of the balconies, particularly for the times that you're not in your units, or in fact for the times that you're asleep in your units. I don't know what the solution is, but a security specialist, absolutely critical. Cliff, if you can come back to me about what you said about your contact with the biometrics, it would be very, very useful. And also, Bibi, if you have contacts with the face biometrics, there's no harm in us chatting. Security consultant, however, is critically important, and we'll secure the services of someone like that sooner rather than later. Colleagues, this is not a nice time for us to get together, but I think it's important. It's important for us to talk to one another and to possibly stop delegating everything to an individual where maybe we need to be more involved than just that individual, because ultimately these are our assets. That person just works for us at the end of the day. And please don't take it as a negative comment, but we have more skin in this game and we need to protect our assets. Thank you all for your contributions. It's been great to hear everyone's voices. And I'll send you a copy of this recording just so that you know you have it for your records as well. I know that Hans possibly wanted to say something. Hans, did I miss a hand from you, sir? Okay, it's no answer. All right, guys, thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Yes, Hans, yes, sorry.
No, the only thing I can offer some assistance, when it comes to evaluating contractors, that sort of stuff. I'm a project manager in the petrochemical industry. I've done particularly on security, I've done quite a bit of projects in South Africa. So, yeah.
Hans, you're not a good observer. That's all I can say, because the moment you say that, you realize we've got you for life. All right.
I know. Sorry about that.
No, don't apologize. We're going to apologize to you up front. All right, guys, thank you all for your time. And Hans, I'll definitely be in touch, sir.
Do that.
Thanks, Ava.
Thanks very much.